I'm Steve Wilkerson, and I'm with Jim Saunders, Executive Editor of the News Service of Florida. Jim, one of Speaker Will Weatherford's top priorities is pension reform, with the policy goal being moving from the present defined benefits program to what we see a lot in the private sector, defined contributions in the form of 401k programs. He tried to do this last year. He was not able to get it through the Senate. So it's up again. He's pushing it again. So what's happening?
Yeah, he's in his final term as Speaker, and he has made clear that he wants this done before he leaves office. And Senate President Don Gates seems to be behind the Speaker on it as well. They were not able to get through the Senate last year basically a 401k program for future state employees.
You said future.
Future. They are talking about for current state employees that they would be able to retain the current traditional pension system with defined benefits, which means when you retire, depending on how much money you've made, you get a certain amount a month or year or however it's calculated. Right. But so they were not able to move to a straight 401k program for future state employees. So they've come up with a couple ideas this year that are sort of hybrid types of plans. One was filed in the Senate already. They're calling it a cash balance plan. And essentially, the state would put money into employees' accounts, and there would be a guaranteed 2% return per year on those accounts. And then when the employees are ready to retire, they could take a cash payout or an annuity type of system or payments. Right. And then the House also is looking at another type of hybrid plan that would have elements of the traditional pension as well as a 401k, kind of side by side. So they haven't really decided how they want to proceed at this point. The Speaker says he's waiting for an actuarial study to come back. But it's clear that he wants to do this. He argues that that long-term having a traditional pension system is not viable financially. And he points to states like Illinois who have had a ton of problems with their pension systems. And he says that he's trying to prepare for the future. Now, the unions are fighting tooth and nail to try to, the state employee unions are fighting tooth and nail to try to retain the traditional pension system. The argument has always been that state employees have been willing to take lower salaries over the years than their private sector counterparts, and as a result that they should have traditional pensions as well as health benefits and those types of things.
What kind of killed the bill last year was in the Senate was the idea that people who are in public safety positions should not have to have defined contribution programs. They should be eligible for defined benefit programs. Is that being addressed again this year?
Well, that was certainly one of the major parts of the debate. Now, Democrats pretty much uniformly are against these changes. So, and so it comes down to whether Republicans are going to go along with the changes, and particularly Republicans in the Senate. There was a coalition of Republican senators last year. Don't know number off the top of my head, maybe 7 or 9 of them or something like that, that defeated this bill along with all the Democrats. And one of the major arguments was, we got these public safety employees, you got highway patrol troopers, you got the guys who fight forest fires, those types of employees, that they should be allowed to remain in the traditional pension system. They're putting their lives on the line, this was a very big rallying point for the Republicans in the Senate. So this year, as these new proposals are rolling out, they would exempt the public safety employees who are called in the pension system special risk employees. So, Speaker Weatherford told us in an interview last week, he said, their jobs carry risks, they should be rewarded for it. I think there's a lot of other people who think that if you take that category of employees out of the debate, then it might be easier to pass in the Senate.
Bottom line is you feel like there's momentum for legislation this year.
I think there's a good chance something's going to pass. Now, what the details of all of this are very complex. So, but I think the speaker's going to push hard for it, and he's got the Senate president behind him. And if they can come up with something that at least looks like a compromise, I think it's got a decent chance.
On to another subject. I had never heard of something called Charlotte's Web before this
Except
session.
E.B. White's famous book, right?
Yeah, okay, there you go. I hadn't heard of it in the form that it's taking in the legislative discussion this year. Boy, there's a lot of talk about it. Let's ask three questions and let you answer it. Number one, what is it? Who's supporting it in terms of legislation to make it available, and why? All right, what is it?
All right. Well, it's a marijuana extract basically, and but the key part of it is it's low on THC, which is the chemical substance that makes marijuana get you high. Mm-hmm. So this issue has come sort of out of the blue in the last month or so. But basically, the Charlotte's Web substance is being touted as helping certain patients. And the ones that are being discussed the most are children who have very severe form of epilepsy, a lot of seizures and so on. And this Charlotte's Web substance apparently, or at least is being billed as being able to help them control these seizures. So Matt Gaetz, Representative Matt Gaetz in the House, brought this to the fore.
Conservative Republican.
Conservative Republican. He's from Fort Walton Beach, Panhandle, probably the most conservative part of the state. And basically he's filed a bill and, pursuing legislation to try to legalize this substance. Then last week, his dad, who is the Senate president, all of a sudden came out big time in favor of it, and three of his lieutenants in the Senate, Republican senators, filed a bill to push it forward. So
all opposing the proposed constitutional amendment pushed by Attorney John Morgan to legalize the medical use of marijuana for a much broader population.
That's sort of the broader context of this whole debate. John Morgan, Orlando trial lawyer, the boss of Charlie Crist, who's worked for his law firm, Charlie Crist running for governor as a Democrat, has succeeded in getting a broad medical marijuana amendment on the ballot. So in the midst of that, this Charlotte's Web issue comes up. Don Gaetz has been very outspoken about the constitutional amendment, along with Pam Bondi, the Attorney General. They argue that this amendment's way too broad, that it could open up marijuana legalization for all sorts of things that are unforeseen at this point. And so, all of a sudden this Charlotte's Web issues come up as sort of a way scaled back alternative that they appear to think they can be for.
Wow, so much talk about marijuana all of a sudden.
It's going to be a big issue all year long. It's a huge political issue. So.
Thank you, Jim. For more news about Florida politics and government, visit the Advances section of our website.